Okay. Oh, okay. So we're live on everything except for Instagram, and Instagram is just now starting. So cool. All right. Well, I'm here with the phenomenal Shay Galloway in another episode of Inspiration Behind the Stories. And I'm so fucking excited. Oh, by the way, I curse a lot. I'm so excited to be here with Shay. I so adored the Valley of Sage and Juniper. And I mean, it was one of those. So I don't know anyone who's ever been in a like an acquisition session. There's some titles that like when we get to it, like the room basically like argues over, well, not argues, but everyone volunteers. I'll be the editor for it, right? And Shay's work was one of those. So we're just gonna like get right into it and start off with the very first question I must ask. So what made you say, oh my gosh, I have got to write this book?
Short answer, a looming thesis deadline for my MFA.
Really?
Yeah, so it started out as a short story assignment for a class during my MFA, and then yeah, I just like kept thinking about it and kept thinking about it after I turned in the story, and yeah, eventually it just like kept growing and growing, and I was like, okay, well, this is my thesis now. So yeah, I was really just like being inspired. It was a last minute short story too. I wrote it like 11 o'clock the night before I had to like take it in for workshopping. So yeah, I was just, yeah, really just procrastination, honestly.
Okay, for real, that's the most honest and best answer I've heard yet. That is so fabulous. And I don't know about you, but there's some like short stories that it's like even as you're writing it, you know, like this isn't a short story. Like there's like something about like the energy of it, the story arc, the narrative that you just sit there and you're just like, I know this is going to end up being something bigger, but like we're starting with this, right?
Yeah.
So that was basically how it came down.
Yeah, and it was like it was a short story that like when I went to my MFA, I grew up in a very small town in Wyoming and
Oh
like
wow.
had grown up, you know, like I went to college and studied writing, and I had kind of gone into that believing like literature is about people who live in New York City lamenting about how difficult it is to be middle class. And so like I went into like, okay, I'm never going to write about small towns or like rural life. Um, and then like I just wrote this story because I was like, I need something for this class. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And my professor was like, this is like, he's like, this is like the rawest, truest thing you've written. And I was like, well, damn. Like here I am. Like now I'm writing a Western.
All right, well then we're gonna go right into it. Now you got to tell everyone like what first sparked the story. What is the story about?
Yeah, so the original like idea, like the first thing that really got me thinking about it was a conversation I was having with a friend, um, like years before either of us even thought about having kids. We were just like talking about names, and I was like, what about a girl named Isaiah? And then I was like, okay, well, like, what if she had a sister named Genesis? And then yeah, I just started thinking about like, okay, what atmosphere would inspire these two names? So yeah, it was just a conversation about names with a friend that really like got the gears going, and that's what I was like thinking about as I was feverishly writing down something before I had to turn it in.
Oh my, and those what great names. I'm like, for real. Now, why this story now? Like what makes you what do you feel like made it prominent, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think so. When I originally started writing it, it was 2016, 2015. And we were, you know, the political climate was like not quite shifting, but we were still sort of in this phase of like, we should still reach across the aisle. And like I was coming from this background of like, hey, not people in rural towns are not dumb. They're not like, the women there aren't these like soft, like they come from stock that is very, pioneering and like strong women who like had to, raise whole families almost alone while their husbands were like out doing ranch stuff or like doing all this. And so it's really, that was really where I was coming from in my heart. It's like like showing these people as being, intelligent. They could be real read and like smart and like having, complexity to them. And, even though they were sort of in a rural, isolated place, didn't mean that they were less complex than anyone else.
Oh, I love that. And so you already mentioned that like there were aspects of this that you were like, you just couldn't stop like pondering. So, but like, what were those questions? What were those questions that you felt like, oh my God, I have to answer these. We've got to get into it.
Yeah, it was really about women in the West. I feel like we get so many Westerns that are always about the cowboys and like their OK Corral fights and all of those. And I was really interested in, like what were the women doing? Like there were women in the West, not as many, but like they were there and like they had to, be also rough to sort of survive in this rough, terrain. So like what were the women who like managed to survive there? Like what were they like? What were they doing? How were they managing to stay on top of it in such a rough area?
Wow. Honestly, that is such a great answer. And I mean, like the more, like even without any, if whoever's watching this, if you don't read The Valley of Sage and Juniper, I just want you to know, A, I don't know why you're not, and B, it definitely, I feel like Shay, you like hit on like key elements or key topics that I think when we read it, we all question like, why hasn't anyone ever addressed this before? And the fact that you just like dove into it, like I said, it was one of those stories that my whole acquisition team just went, me. Okay. So who is this story about? Who are the primary characters and why should people care?
So it is two sisters. So it's it goes a dual point of view. So it goes between the two sisters. And it's a saga essentially about them growing up. So it's also a coming of age story at its heart. So it starts with them being very young with both of their parents. I guess that's a half spoiler alert. They have two parents at the beginning of the book and they do not at the end of the book. So it's these two sisters kind of growing up on this ranch in a rural town. And then, the mysterious person comes in who is a preacher that kind of comes in and starts to have sort of a fascination with at least one of the sisters and their family. So those are our three like main characters, or the three people who kind of move the story along. Yeah.
And what is at stake if things go wrong?
The sisters would lose their land. So the preacher sort of comes in and like is very invested in taking their land from them, which is their legacy. And so they have to kind of keep him at bay while also weathering growing into womanhood and the Great Depression and all of that coming up behind them as well.
Now, what kind of an emotional ride should a reader expect? I mean, you already mentioned it's coming of age and we have the mysterious creature, but like what kind of emotions should a reader anticipate experiencing? If that makes
There's
sense.
a lot of navigating loss, I guess. So I would say be prepared for that. So it is a rather like somber tone. One of the sisters does have a more kind of nostalgic tone. I kind of wrote her as somebody who's like telling this story from late on in her life. And the other sister is a little more impish and a little more impulsive. So she kind of gets into all sorts of all sorts of trouble, sort of due to her own making. So there is sort of like it kind of moves a little bit between like a nostalgic feel and kind of reflecting on like loss and life, and somebody else just sort of um, trying to figure out how to move through life in the moment. Um, so it's there's a lot of ups and downs, I guess. So it's kind of an emotional roller coaster.
Cool. Hey. Sounds good to me. Now, I think every author kind of goes through an emotional, I mean, you're supposed to go through an emotional roller coaster when you're actually developing the story. What part of the book did you find to be the absolute hardest to write?
Let's see. I honestly, the sex scenes.
Really?
Not, I think I came from like, I grew up very Mormon. And so like, that was sort of like taboo. And so like, I kind of had to like turn that part off of me to even like mention intimacy beyond like, having like the curtain shut. And I don't get very graphic at all. But even just like the amount that I wrote, I tell people that it's like very PG-13. Like you would see this on TV. And even that just felt like a little bit like I had to get out of my own head and being like, so that I tended to like wax very poetic within those moments. So like trying to figure out how to like try to essentially write it like a grown up and not like a 13-year-old on like AO3 trying to like.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So you already mentioned that you were getting your MFA at the time that you wrote the short story that blossomed into the Valley of Sage and Juniper. But like, where were you personally, emotionally at as you were writing the story?
Yeah, I was 25 when I started my MFA. So I was probably about 26 when I started writing this. I was newly married. We'd only been married a couple years. And so like just we were, double income, no kids yet. But I was also like starting my own like religious deconstruction journey. And so I think that influenced the topics of the book a lot. Was just my own sort of like coming to terms with like religion and Christianity and like my own background of like coming from stock that like settled the American West. Part of my family were pioneers, and like coming to terms with all of that and like where that put me and like my own like legacy from that. So that was like, and I had said like I was very resistant to writing about the West and like even writing about religion. And I was still like very I didn't write about race in this book. It took a little bit longer for me to stop being resistant to writing about race. So I was like very resistant to writing about race too. So like I was still trying to like get comfortable with writing from a place of truth and not a place of like I'm gonna write to the market essentially, and like what I what it would be esteemed literature.
Like, I will be the next Poe.
Like I'm gonna write the next great, I don't know, great like
Saga.
story about someone just being a tortured artist.
Oh my god, I love it. That's awesome. Do you feel like writing this changed you at all? And if so, how?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it did feel like it sort of did help me kind of put into place how I was feeling about a lot of that, and like my own relationship to like religion, and the West. And like I feel like now I've written it and I'm like, okay, like I've gotten that out of my system. I haven't had the drive to like have to be like, I gotta write another story about, religion. So I feel like it did sort of like help with that. Yeah, and like I think it helped me like grow from like being this sort of like country bumpkin girl too. I was living in Chicago at the time too, from Utah, and that's like a drastic difference. And so I feel like it was a good like transitional book for me too, to like, this is where I'm gonna like approach some topics I've been afraid to writing about. And after that, it's like it's gone out, people have enjoyed it. And now I'm like, I've been liberated to be like, I can write about any topic I want that has felt like a difficult topic to pursue. And like I should, like, it's meaningful.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So what surprised you most while you were writing it?
I think just that there were some places that went a lot faster. Like it actually like didn't take that long to write. Granted, I didn't have any kids yet. And again, I was like in my 20s, so staying up until like midnight writing was like fine. Yeah, so I was like writing it, and I think just like it came easy. Like the story came easy, the characters came easy, and that I was able to like make it have it feel very like poetic and literary, even though it's like about these two teenagers living on a farm.
Cool. Which character do you feel was the most challenging to write and why?
I think for me, Isaiah was difficult to write, but also really fun. So Isaiah is like not like me at all. And like if she were a real person, she would really annoy me. Like I would not be able to handle her. And I've had people say like, I wasn't sure that I liked her. And I was like, you're right. That is exactly what I wanted. She was not meant to be like a quote unquote likable character. She was just supposed to be, she's kind of a hot mess. And I wanted her to be that way. And so she was like, for me, an exploration and like writing a character that is in every way opposite from me. Like I identify way more with Genesis. I am the oldest sister, oldest daughter. And so like I wrote myself into her, but Isaiah was like, she is not me at all. I don't condone any of her actions. The way that she's so impulsive, right? I am like the tight laced, buttoned up sister who did everything right. And so like that was just kind of hard for me, but also really fun. It's like, how do I write her to be this unlikable person in my terms, but also like you still root for her?
I was going to ask, like, how did you tap her? Because that's not easy. Like what you're describing is not easy to write.
I just had to remember, like, I kept reminding myself, like, she's a teenager. Like she's only in her early 20s by the end of the book. So I just had to keep being like, okay, she's she's just a teenager who doesn't like, she's lost most of the adults in her life, so she doesn't really know how to navigate this world. Um, and like nobody's really ever like reined her in, right? She's kind of a spitfire that nobody really knows what to do with, and she's just very young. So I, kind of kept having that sympathy of like nobody is guiding her. She's just operating in a world the best she can.
Mm.
And like, so I did try to like give moments of like where she is, like comes to that realization too of like, hey, what I'm doing is like not the best and I'm aware of that. But she's also an impulsive teenager, so she's like gonna do it again.
Oh, well, fair. Now, was there anything that like almost didn't make it in the book? And why did you actually keep it?
um I think most I think everything that's in there I had originally put. Well, I don't want to give too much away, but there was a character death at the end that I really didn't want to happen just because I was like,
Mm.
oh, I've like so many people have already like died, which is like it spans 15 years. Like people die in your life within 50 years. So it's 15 years. So it's like, realistic. But I just
Mm.
really didn't want that character to die. They were such a sweet, sweet character. But I think it like really just needed it to like push the stakes forward at the end.
Mm.
But yeah, so it was like just that character making it to the end. And I think even during the editing process, the character had died, and I forgot to edit at a part after that. And they came back to dinner, and I was like, "You aren't supposed to be here."
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, it's like, oops,
Yeah.
you're dead. Okay, never mind.
Like, oh, this person is a ghost now, just eating dinner with them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Um, who do you think would like fall hardest for the book? Like, it sounds like a great YA like coming of age story, but like, is there like a specific like subset or market that you think would
Yeah,
be like,
I
oh my
would
god, I'm
say,
in?
yeah, I would mark it more. I would say more like older YA, who are more into like more quiet stories. Um, but yeah, anyone who's like likes likes historical fiction, but maybe is sort of tired of World War II stories, or not to say that those are good. It's just we have a lot of
There's a
them.
lot. Yeah.
So yeah, so that and I mean it's set during the Great Depression. So people who like the feel of a historical fiction, but aren't necessarily like there for the history. I guess like it's not a history lesson. Um, it's more of like somebody telling their experience of living through it, but not a PBS special. Um, so yeah. um, yeah, anyone who thinks that living in a small town life is idyllic, that might help you realize that it's not an idyllic thing. Um, yeah, so people who are fans of like, I think Kristen Hanna wrote a Great Depression era story. Um, yeah, so I think that would be people who like that. Um, yeah, so anyone who's just sort of like interested in history, but not necessarily like want or interested in historical fiction, but not necessarily history, or anyone that's like grown up in a small town. I've gotten that. A lot of people who grew up in small towns, especially Western small towns, have also like really related to it a lot too.
Got it. That makes sense. Is there anything that readers say came up in this story that they totally weren't expecting?
Um, Well, I do know. So my best friend from high school that also grew up with me, she pointed out that I named one of the horses after one of her horses. That I like didn't. It was just like in my subconscious, I think. But she was like, "Hey, that was the name of my horse," and I was like, "It sure was." So I feel like that was just kind of unexpected for all of us. But I've also had people who were like, "I generally don't read this genre, but I was like really intrigued by it. I have one writing friend who said his feedback to me was, and this sounds negative, but I promise it's not. He was like, I didn't fall asleep. So he just, I think the context was like normally he's like he reads right before bed and like it puts him to sleep, you know. And he's just like, I actually was awake by the end of like my reading session. So that's probably my favorite review. It didn't put me to sleep.
Actually, that does sound fabulous. Now, if someone was going to read the first, say, 20 pages, what keeps them going?
Just there's a lot of like shifting dynamics, and so about like how is this going to work out for them now, like now that this thing has changed, like how are they going to deal with that, like, and everything sort of, there are things that sort of like amp up incrementally. So, you know, there's like, I do try to like build off of what's happening. So there's always just this idea of like, okay, what's going to happen to them now? Like, how is this going to change what their life is like?
Got it. Oh, that's cool. Now, is there a specific mood you think a reader should be in when they first sit down to really get into it?
Not sad. It will just probably make you more sad. But maybe just in a place of like calm. Yeah, just because you're gonna kind of be going up and all over the place.
No. Okay. Emotionally. So, like, bottom line, why should someone pick up this book?
It's a good romp. Cool. Yeah, it's just like a good saga of like, I think, life and just like real. I mean, the characters are not real, but the things they experience are real, and you know, based on it's based on the stories I heard from like my grandparents talking about their childhoods, and like the stories I heard of like pioneer women. And so like they are based on like the real people, like people's real experience of growing up in this environment.
And is there anything that you want to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, read it. Visit the rural Rocky Mountain towns. Don't live there. It's great to look at.
Okay. Well, with that, as always, Shay, absolutely adore you. She is 100% right, guys. You got to go out. You've got to pick up Valley of Sage and Juniper. It's available in audiobook, ebook, and paperback. And it really is a fabulous, fabulous romp. So again, Shay, thank you. And can't wait I can't wait to read your next thing. You got to get to it. Hurry up.
Working on it.
All right, sweet. All right, thank you guys. And I will see you guys actually this afternoon, 5 p.m. Pacific time. I will be back with Gina Bright, another one of our fantastic authors. And until then, thanks, guys.